Happy Thanksgiving and welcome to the Midwestern Geek and Cali show with your host Dan Stafford, me. I'm living in Temecula, California, summer's winter home. Beautiful place. Really enjoy it here. And I have several things to talk about today, so let's get rocking and rolling here. All right, so first off, I want to talk about these California wildfires. I know a lot of people out there seem to think that they're being caused by directed energy weapons. I don't necessarily believe that per se. Um, to me, it's more a situation with dry drought conditions, heavy duty winds coming down off the mountains. I've seen some science articles on this. Um, it's no matter which way you slice it, it's really hard on folks out here in California right now, especially Northern California. The whole town of Paradise gone. I want to say somewhere on the order of 300,000 or 400,000 acres burned up. Fires racing along at like 80 football fields a minute. I think they were burning at times. A lot of people haven't just been rendered homeless, they've also been rendered workless because their places of work and their homes have burned down at the same time. It's a real crisis for many people that are being evacuated with nowhere really left to go and no real help directly for the people. There's a lot of organizations putting things together, but actually getting help into these folks is going to take some time and effort. So I don't expect that to really be in place that well very soon here, but the sooner the better. My heart goes out to all those folks, the firefighters that are out there trying to get these blazes under control. Thank you very much. I'm really hoping we get some rain to help them with their jobs and put a stop to all this. What a mess. What a total mess. I also think that we need to reconsider how we're building in California. We need to be thinking about how do we build fireproof structures, places where you could actually shelter from this, even if it just required having some kind of a storm cellar underground, built under the slab of a new home or an office, so at least the people can shelter from the fire while it's going through. But better yet, build in such a manner that the buildings themselves are fireproof and survive. Build to suit the environment you're in. That's all I'm going to say, but hopefully we can get help to folks out there really soon. And my heart goes out to all of you that are impacted by this. No matter which way you slice it, it's just a bad situation. So I'm going to come up to my first story for today. It's build your own supercomputer out of Raspberry Pi boards. And I'm going to say the title of our show. This is episode 79. Dirt cheap supercomputing, dirt cheap supercomputing, satellite internet getting serious, and more, and definitely more. So first off, build your own supercomputer out of Raspberry Pi boards. This article is over on ZDNet, and as always, you can go to MidwesternGeekandCali.com and find the show notes with articles linked, and everything I'm talking about in this show will be in the show notes, and if there are articles on it, they will be linked. So what we're looking at here is a guy at a college needed a supercomputer, couldn't really get time on one, so he put together a supercomputer using multiple Raspberry Pi boards for about $2,000, which is really interesting. I believe it uses generally Linux. It's Linux powered. It's pretty amazing. The guy has got himself a full-on supercomputer for under $2,000 or right around $2,000. Imagine, being able to have a supercomputer in everybody's house. Wouldn't that be something? We'd end up with so much computing power on the planet, we'd just never really have an issue any further. So just saying, this is a really good article to check out. I think a lot of the software used to do it is open source. Well, Linux definitely is. So it is quite something, quite something. You're going to want to go over and take a look at and check this article out. But that's a little bit lighter than what I want to cover on this next story. All right, the next story is SpaceX wins FCC approval to put over 7,000 satellites in orbit. This is the company, Elon Musk's space company, and they're going to provide global broadband coverage. Now, the difference with this, when most people think of satellite internet, they think of the current day satellite internet that uses geosynchronous station satellites for broadband internet. And geosynchronous orbit, that's like 22,500 miles up in order to circle at the correct rate around the Earth to always be over the same spot. So it's like way up here, and as the Earth turns, the satellite's over the same spot. These satellites would be at about 180 miles or so up. So if you think about this, when you send out an internet request to a current day internet satellite, it has to go up 22,500 miles or so, come back down 22,500 miles or so, then hit the internet, go wherever it's going. Whatever response comes back goes up 22,500 miles, comes back down 22,500 miles, and then gets back to your computer. So you have almost 100,000 miles round trip built in before you even hit the internet or come back off the internet. That is a huge amount of delay in the time you send something to the time it comes back. Not to mention which satellites that far out, the radio signal is going to be weaker because of the distance involved. And radio waves don't go through moisture. They don't go through water very well. Water absorbs radio waves in most frequencies. Think about your microwave. What does it heat up first? It uses radio to cook, basically, and it cooks anything that's got water in it first. The water molecules absorb the radio waves and heat up faster than anything else in there. So fog, snow, heavy rain, very thick cloud cover, all of that makes the radio signal from existing satellites really a lot weaker, because it might as well be putting a sunshade between a lamp and what you're trying to read. So you've got the tremendous distance involved to go up to the satellite, come back, go back up to the satellite, and come back again. Then you have the issue of weather out here in Southern California. There's not that much weather, so most of the time it's pretty dry and clear, so satellite works out here pretty well. Same thing with microwave links for telecommunications. Out here they work great, but in wetter part of the countries like in the Great Lakes region or pretty much anywhere in the midsection of the country that gets regular thunderstorms, fog, rain, snow, all that, it's difficult. And even vegetation with a lot of moisture in it, trees with leaves in spring and summer, those tree leaves are full of water, and so is the tree. The tree is like basically nature's water tower. It holds literally several thousand gallons of water when it's alive. So that goes back to the fires too. Why are trees still standing? They're full of water. That's why they're still standing after these fires. They're going to be scorched and all that. You probably have the leaves dried up and curled up and maybe falling off, maybe burned off, maybe not. But that's why trees are still around and regrow after, because they're full of water and their roots are into the ground. So, yeah, I'm sidetracking. Back to the satellite internet. Here's the huge difference. These new satellites, they're talking about being about 180,000 miles up. And they're not going to stay over the same spot on the Earth, but there's going to be so many of them that you'll always be able to connect to one. And by the time they get the full constellation up, they're going to cover the entire planet. So the radio signal is going to be stronger. You only really have about a 600-mile round trip, which is not really bad for delay. That's no big deal, really. And so the internet, you're talking about gigabit internet, probably, with these satellites at least, and then you're not going to have a heck of a lot of delay and global coverage, North Pole to South Pole and all the way around. So here you go. They're going to end up eventually having broadband internet worldwide, gigabit, for about $7 to $10 a month, it's estimated to eventually become. And it's not just Elon Musk's company doing this. There's also several other companies that have won FCC approval as well. Let's see here. SpaceX has already launched a couple of small prototypes in February. It's going to have an initial 800 satellites up to provide U.S. and international coverage, and the rest of them later will cover the rest of the globe. Let's see. There is... it's maybe not in this article, but there are a couple. Oh, here it is. Kepler Communications, Telesat Canada, and Leosat MA are also going to be have been granted FCC permits to operate broadband satellites in low Earth orbit as well. So there's going to be multiple low Earth orbit satellite constellations going up for broadband internet service, and it is going to really change the shape and scope and pricing of broadband internet service worldwide. It is going to be very difficult to find a place on the planet that does not have internet. It probably won't be, and for cheap. It's going to be very affordable. So this should have the telecommunications and cable companies shaking in their boots right now, looking at all this coming down the pipe. Yeah, they better be lowering prices on plans and, you know, doing stuff to win customers and putting up 5G and everything else they can do to compete, because they're going to have some serious competition on their hands from these satellite operators if they're successful in launching large constellations, multiple large constellations of satellite with global coverage. It's going to be really, really, really a big deal. It's going to be like the change from the late 90s to the mid 2000s in the way the internet was and how dramatically that changed. It'll be almost like the cell phone revolution all over again. It's just you're not going to be able to go anywhere and not have connectivity. You'd have to be in a bunker somewhere just about. Yeah, between 5G and satellite internet, it's going to just go kerblunk. Yeah. I don't know. This world is going to be very, very different in about 5 years. So look forward to that, folks, because these days of $60 and $70 a month cable internet bills and being tied to all the TV stuff and cable TV and not going to stick. So it's going to change, definitely. All right, so my next story up is NASA reveals new findings about Oumuamua. I can't wrap my mouth around that thing. The alien probe asteroid. Okay. Whoever named it that was just trying to torture people, I swear. Okay. So this is the asteroid that was like really long and cylindrical, and it was, you know how most planets orbit the sun in the plane of the ecliptic this way, and this asteroid was coming up and through the solar system more like this. As a matter of fact, they think it just shot through the solar system and kept on going, but it also swung around, and they're saying it picked up speed going around the sun, like how we would do space probes, like going to the outer planets and Mars. That thing about doing a gravity slingshot around the planets to be able to pick up a little speed from the planet and get moving faster to get further out in the solar system quicker. Well, this thing did the same thing, looping around the sun like it did. It picked up speed from the sun, and it made it move even faster into interstellar space. So they think it's gone out of the solar system now. Some people think it's an alien space probe. Yeah, it's not necessarily an alien probe, but it could be. You know, I mean, who knows? Until they can either find some way to have a spaceship catch up with it and look, or catch it in a much larger space telescope, which I doubt is going to happen. We'll probably never know, but that thing did a slingshot around the sun and shot out of here. So who knows if it was taking a peek while it was going through, or if it was just a dumb rock, but it's still pretty cool. Okay, next up we have Sun's closest solo star may have company. For those who aren't really up on this, the closest star to the Sun is actually Alpha Centauri, but it's a binary star system. There's actually two stars there, and they're about 4 light years away from Earth. A light year being the length of time that the distance that light can travel in 1 year. Okay, and so the closest star system to our Sun is Alpha Centauri and Proxima Centauri, binary star system, and they're about 4 light years out. The next closest star is called Barnard star, B-A-R-N-A-R-D, Barnard star, and it's about 6 light years away. And this star is different from the Sun. In the case of Alpha Centauri A and B, Alpha Centauri itself is a yellow dwarf star, very similar to the Sun, and then Proxima Centauri is a red dwarf star, much smaller, much cooler. Barnard star is also a red dwarf star, not as small as Proxima Centauri, but still much smaller and cooler than our Sun. And they've found what they call a super Earth, which is basically a planet that's about 2 to 3 times as big as Earth, maybe even 1.5 times as big as Earth would be considered a super Earth. You get much bigger than this, though, and you're starting to get into the giant planet range. But this thing, I want to say, it was 2 point something times the size of Earth. And the range that it orbits Barnard star is pretty much comparable to the distance of Mercury from our Sun. However, this thing, since Barnard star is so much smaller and cooler than the Sun, it's nowhere near as hot as Mercury. It's actually more likely that water would be mostly ice, some slush on this planet. It'd be cool enough to, they're calling it the star snow belt. So it's possible, just conceivably possible, that a planet like this could harbor life. So they've done multiple observations on this thing, and basically the star its light frequency is shifting just enough that they can tell that something is going around it and pulling it a little bit away from the sun when it's on the far side and a little closer to the sun, and that shifts the frequency of the light coming to Earth from that star. So that's how they can tell. So it could be two things going around the star, two smaller bodies that would be in further out orbits, or it could be one larger one. And the way things look right now, it looks like it's one larger object. That would be a super Earth in the star's snow belt. But pretty cool. I mean, we're starting to find planets all over our galaxy. You can't really tell much outside the galaxy, but you can pretty much guess if we're finding this many stars in our galaxy, then there's going to be a lot of them everywhere. So that is pretty interesting, and you have to wonder about alien life in a case like this. It might just be possible. So my next story here is Pocket Cast acquired by NPR, other public radio stations, and This American Life. Pocket Cast is an app, I believe it's for both Android and iOS, and it's for discovering podcasts and listening to podcasts. Now, I currently use an app called Podbean, and I like it pretty well. I originally, some of you may know, this show actually started out as an audio-only podcast, and a lot of my early episodes were done just as audio-only episodes and done through podcast listening services. Actually, there's still a couple episodes up on the old podcasting site. I couldn't afford to keep up the hosting. So I ended up having to take most of it down and downgrade it back to a free account. That's when I switched to doing a YouTube channel, and eventually I'm planning on putting all those audio episodes up on the Internet Archive. I'm doing a little bit at a time, and I will also convert them into videos and add them to the YouTube channel. So you're going to see over time a lot of those early episodes will come in on YouTube as well. That's why you're seeing me at 78, 79 episodes. And by the way, this is episode 79 of our show, all told, and that number includes all those early audiocast episodes that haven't been converted to video and put up on the YouTube channel yet. So that's why you can't find a lot of those earlier episodes yet, because they're just audio recordings that need to be converted to video and uploaded. So that's a project. Since I'm a one-man band, it's going to take time. I'm not going to be able to do that overnight. But I think it's interesting that NPR and other public radio stations, basically a consortium of public radio stations and This American Life, have bought out Pocket Cast. It's supposed to be very, very good for podcast discovery, which if you've searched around online for podcasts to listen to, it can be pretty difficult to find something that's really, really good and worth listening to. Like, better than my show. Anyway, I'm grateful for you guys that listen, but this is nothing huge and grand. I have no budget on this thing. I'm doing it on a shoestring, and I'm doing it in my spare time, labor of love. So I'm not comparing myself to all these other podcasts and shows out here that have the time and resources to do a much better job than I do. I'm just bringing you stuff that I think is cool, and stories like the satellite internet, that is going to be a huge dang deal. You know, I work in technology. I've been following technology since I was very, very young, and I've spent years and years and years reading tech stories, and I'm telling you that this satellite internet thing is going to be a big freaking deal. Just mark my words on that one. It is going to change the game coming down the road, and so is 5G, but satellite internet even more so, I think, than 5G. I don't know. Between the two, I'm hard pressed to say for sure, but I think the satellite internet is going to be the big deal. Long term, 10 years, it's going to be a completely different landscape. But back to Pocket Casts. I haven't tried this one yet. I'm still using Podbean, but I'm thinking I may just swap out for a little while. I like Podbean, but I'm still running a Galaxy S7 Droid phone, and the amount of room and RAM on there is limited compared to modern phones, and the more apps you throw on there, the more it slows down. So I may just switch apps for a while just to try something different, because I do like to listen to a podcast. Usually most weekdays when I'm at work, I go to lunch, I actually eat, and then I go out and walk for half an hour, and I often listen to a podcast while I'm walking at lunch, trying to get some exercise in and keep my steps down and keep informed and or entertained in some cases. So I think I'm going to give it a try for a little while and just see how I like it, because I've never really done anything but Podbean. And their app's good. Podbean's app is good, and I do like it, but I want to have a little wider experience with the listening side of podcasts. So I'm going to give that a shot, and I'll report back to you at some point. Now, the last story that I'm going to do today is actually not really a story. I'm going to open it up. I am looking for a local co-host to do this podcast or this YouTube channel with me. Somebody here in Temecula, Murrieta, Lake Elsinore. If you're around, I would like somebody that's kind of into the geek stuff like I am, that I can have a little bit of banter and back and forth with. I'd like someone that maybe is a little bit younger than me, so that we can have a little bit of generational difference coverage. I'm in my mid-50s, and that I have a worldview based on the entire transition from the world of paper to the world of digital. And I would love to have a co-host that grew up digital, so we can kind of bounce things off each other. And really, I think a two-person show is a much better show than a single-person show. There may be other ideas than what I have that would make the show a lot better, but I'd like somebody at least once a month to co-host the show with me, and somebody local and somebody regular. So I'm kind of thinking about that. So I'm available on, you can reach me via Twitter, at MWGIC Cali on Twitter. You can send me an email from the website for the YouTube channel, MidwesternGeekandCali.com. You can email me from there. You can just email MidwesternGeekandCali@gmail.com and get me that way. But if you're interested in maybe doing at least a monthly co-host on this thing, and coming in and talking some of these stories with me and going over them together and doing a joint YouTube, I'd appreciate hearing from you. Let's talk and see if we can't make this a two-person show and make it a lot better than what I can do by myself. And on that note, I'm going to wrap it up here, and I want to wish everyone a happy and safe Thanksgiving. I hope everyone has a wonderful time with family, and take a break. Enjoy. And with that, may there never be a rogue wave in your coffee mug. And happy Vulcan fingers to you from the Agent of 42. And have a great day.